Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, K Fresh. Recording this on Leap Day, February 29th, 2016. This is episode number 20. Yes, we're 20 in. Holy shit. And, I'm finally feeling better. The past, few weeks, I'm going to say, I've just been sick and exhausted, my brain barely functioning. Actually, the whole year thus far, I've just been off and on sick, and I haven't been that way for years. I used to be like that when I was younger, but past few years, I haven't been that way, but this whole year thus far has just been killing me. I think it's kind of like the up and down with the weather. There's just been things going around, but past few days, like Saturday, I came home from work, and I just literally slept 16 hours until the next day. So when I had to get up to go to work again. And that day I felt like the best I felt all year. And today I feel even better. So I feel like whatever bug I worked out, whatever sort of imbalance in my life between sleep and whatever, I finally got over it, got some rest. Feeling really good, Just got done watching the 2-hour crossover episode of The Vampire Diaries and the originals. Yes, I love that shit. It's those are my favorite TV shows on right now. I love vampire shit, but I'm not really into the True Blood shit or the the movies, the Twilight. Those are kind of corny to me. Vampire Diaries and originals have really good storylines. They have a beautiful cast of actors on there. Everybody's just good looking as fuck. But they just had, this season has been awesome. This has been the first season of Vampire Diaries without Elena. And actually, it's an amazing season. So, if anybody was like, well, it ain't going to be the same without Elena, shoot. It's been kind of better. They were able to, turn it into this whole other, turn that was pretty damn awesome. So, if anybody wants to ever talk, Vampire Diaries originals with me, just hit me up. Email me, questions at freshastheword.com, or, hit me on my personal Twitter, which is Rensoul, RENSOUL. Talk to me about, the Vampire Diaries. I love that shit. Damon Salvatore, Stefan Salvatore, all those people. Love it. All right, and so about it, I had to rewatch it because on Friday I was DJing at the Pyramid of Sound record store in Detroit for their monthly beat profile. I'm the resident DJ for it, and this month was different, had a different energy. I'm kind of in this transition period in regards to DJing. I DJ hip hop shit, electronic music, dance music, all just a wider range of stuff. But I'm kind of reinventing myself. I got bored with it. I'm trying to bring some fun back into some theatrics, So I'm kind of. I found a niche by the end of the night, and it was just stupid lit. It's been the funnest I've DJ'd fucking a long time, I think I got a pretty big DJ gig coming up this summer during Memorial Day weekend, which I'll definitely let you know about when it comes around. Some people that I previously DJ'd with, so, and I'll be psyched, when that happens. Pretty big gig. So, yeah, definitely, that's basically what I've been up to. We got a really great show today, with, a Portland-based electronic music producer, singer, songwriter, Natasha Kmeto. She was actually in town, on tour with, Ghostly International artist Beacon. They were, electronic music artists. Two guys. It was. I missed Beacon at the show because it was a time before. I'd just been under the weather. Out of the loop, whatever. Haven't been feeling well, so I stayed around for Natasha's set, but after that I just had to go home and sleep. So before she came into town, we talked, on the phone about some stuff, And honestly, this is one of my favorite episodes because we kind of get into some stuff, get into some real stuff about it. Her new album, Inevitable, it's kind of her dealing with herself, sort of getting comfortable, working out things in regards to her sexuality and stuff, and kind of becoming more of a vocalist, more of a songwriter. And we talk about those things in the interview. And I feel like these discussions are very timely now because there's a lot of things going on right now in regards to sexual harassment in the music industry, homophobia in the music industry, uh, shit, fucking racial inequality in the fucking Oscars and stuff like that. With the sexual harassment, it's at all levels. You have the thing with Kesha. You have um, recently the whole thing with Heathcliff Baroof and everybody coming forward about the stuff the sexual harassment claims with him. I need to just do a whole episode in regards to just the whole sexual harassment thing. A friend of mine, Katie, she was just published on XO Jane's website in regards to an incident that she had as working at a label, and it's just all these things. It's female artists, it's female publicists, it's female everybody in the music industry, and you have men in power that think that the women in the music industry are nothing but eye candy, or there to serve their every need and desire and whim. And it's fucked up. It's like these are fucking women who, dude, they got into this music thing because at one point they were like, I love music so much that I want to have a job in it. I want to have a career in it. How can I fit into this? I can be a musician. I can be a publicist. I can be a manager. I can be an assistant. I can answer phones. I can do whatever, man. And they don't sign up to get harassed on a daily basis. They don't get they don't sign up for this to be proposed, propositioned for sex on a daily basis. They don't they don't sign up for that shit. They're fucking human beings. Come the fuck on, man. And being in the music scene that I have been for so long, I've seen things like I've seen the way that guy is just in any scene, the hip hop scene, whatever, kind of how they confront the women of the scene. And there's women in the scene that are trying to do some positive, real shit for us, And it's not a men and women thing. It's for the music. And it's like fuck you, man. Like treat them like a equal, man. And it's just like I thought we could get to the point where we can progress from this when it's not the good old boys club anymore. But obviously that hasn't gone. And you have people like Heathcliff that was like blaming a alcohol. Wait, look, all of us who have partied in the music scene have gotten too drunk sometimes and maybe said something foul to the opposite sex or whatever. But that's like one instance. Alcohol does not account for 10 years of being an asshole. So so this shit needs to stop. We need to held a lot of these people accountable, and we need to make sure that the people coming up, the men and women, the men coming up, like know that it's not right to even proposition a female in any of that way. Treat them as your equal. We're all trying to build up a music scene. We're all trying to build up something. The better the music scene is, the better it is for everybody. And these people are on their power trip or have their own inner problems that they need help with, man. And it's very and being around the music scene, I even see people where I just have an inkling that they're that person that, yes, they post about their wife and their children on Facebook, but probably every time they're away from them, they're propositioning anything with a vagina, So I have a gut about these people, and it's almost like this. It's like the same thing with a bit of a the homophobia that sort of it reigns supreme, like really in the hip hop scene. I remember a friend of mine, his brother is gay, and he once said to me, "I'm scared to bring my brother in the hip hop scene because I hear so much shit that I don't know how people will react to him," and that's really fucked up, you know. And there's so much homophobia about the way some of these guys dress, you know, the young thugs of the world. I don't like Young Thugs. I don't like his music. I think it's cheesy, it's corny, whatever. And anything the way he dresses kind of in bad taste. But everybody's problem with Young Thug is out of homophobia, man. There's so much hate out of homophobia because they feel like he's dressing gay, you know, whatever that fucking means, you know. And it's fucked up. And me and Tasha can actually get into, you know, what certain things mean, what the term queer means, because the term queer, while at times is used as sort of a, you know, a slur, actually has this broad sense of meaning that you're open to all genders and you're open to, you know, relationship structures that are outside the norm, you know. I get that, dude. I really sort of understand that, because I don't, the thing is with me, I've definitely, like, I'm terrible in relationships. I don't know how to deal. It's all overwhelming for me, and I've dealt with it, and I've tried to figure shit out on my own. And it's just like I don't understand, like, sexual orientation. I don't understand relationship. I don't understand why everything has to be one thing or the other, black or white, right or wrong, good or evil, whatever. That's how people think about it, man. It has to be one thing or the other, you know. Why can't it just be a thing, the gray area, and you find your own thing? I definitely, like, I know I prefer women. I know that, you know, and I know there's, why can't you just prefer women but just be open to anything, you know? Why do you have to be one thing or another, you know? And that's what and that's what screws up everything and becomes such a complicated thing, you know. And everybody buys into this, and then they bring in the religious aspect, which is bullshit, you know. So it's definitely a a thing that needs to be a discussion that continues to be made. And I feel like to a certain extent the extremists on all sides, even on the gay side, want to be like, well, if you're bisexual or any of this, you're just playing yourself. You're really just gay, but you're not committing to it. No, 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 no. I don't believe that either. You know, there's extremist thinking on all sides. You know, like, why can't it just be out there? You know, why can't it just be a thing? You know, I know with relationships these days, there's all these other ways of thinking, and I don't necessarily think monogamy is natural, but sometimes I feel like it's just the easiest route to go, you know, because I don't want to deal with anything else. But you have all these other things like open relationships or polyamorous, all these other things that I'm just like, I have, what do these mean? How do I fit into these ideas, you know? And maybe I would be able to fit into some of these alternative ideas, but they're so sort of complicated, and I feel like it's hard for people to discuss them, that you almost get the ignorant side of it, and you get kind of prejudice, or you kind of think what it might be, or you kind of put things together. You get something of it wrong, and it just never really locks in your mind, and then you just kind of give up on it. So, and the thing is, I know with a lot of the relationships I've gone through, you know, when I try to honestly and openly say that I don't like this part, I don't like doing this part of the relationship or this, and instantly the women kind of take that as I'm saying this thing, but I really mean this thing. I'm trying to be honest, but they don't think I'm being honest, and they think I'm not like super, like, I don't do like your normal ways of, you know, paying attention to, you know, people, especially like in relationships when I'm dating. But it doesn't mean I'm not attracted to that woman or whatever. It just means that I just don't deal with that sort of bullshit. And then sometimes, you know, girls think that that might be, they're insecure about it, and they might think that I don't I'm not really into them or not attracted to them. It isn't about that. It's just that I kind of look at things in a lot different way. You know, I don't really even. I understand myself more than I've ever understood myself from a relationship standpoint, a personal standpoint, as my sexual standpoint or whatever. I understand myself more than ever right now. But my big fear is that other people won't understand that, because most people are think that like sexuality and relationships and all that are like one thing or the other. You know, there's these 3 or 4 labels, 1 or 2 labels, and one of them is good and the other one is bad or whatever. You know, so it's a struggle. You know, so I think these certain discussions, I need to have additional episodes of this podcast with people to really just directly discuss, sexuality, homophobia, sexual harassment, all that. You know, I definitely want to have more episodes on this. If you have any of your own stories or ideas or thoughts about this, do not hesitate to hit me up. You know, you can email me at questions@freshasthepodcast.com. Hit me up on Facebook at facebook.com/freshasthepodcast. You can, hit me on Twitter at fresh as the podcast, or fresh as the word, the number 1, fresh as the word 1, the number 1. And just give me your thoughts, give me your stories, whatever, that has to do with any of those things, sexuality, homophobia, fucking sexual harassment in music, whatever, just, let me know. Maybe we can build something here, and try to make things better, That's what I want. This podcast, when I started it, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast that's about music and wrestling. What I think it's already evolved to is that it's a podcast that involves music and wrestling, but the true essence of it is the sort of lessons that you can learn from watching from these worlds. Those are worlds, those are universes that are created. There's lessons to be learned. There's stupid lessons to be learned. There's sometimes it's just entertainment. A lot of it's just entertainment, but there's lessons to be learned, and fresh as the word is something that I want this to be another universe. This is my universe, where I'm coming from. I want to talk about the things that sort of I've been sort of dealing with, and I want to talk with other artists that I find interesting, whether it's a West Coast gangster rapper from the early 90s, and that was my favorite, the first like parts of hip hop that I ever liked, stuff like that, or whether it's a new electronic music producer or a new indie rock band, something that really struck a chord with me. This is my universe. I listen to so much stuff. I investigate so much music, and that I want to see what makes these people tick, why it struck a chord with me. This is my universe, but I want other people to weigh in. I want other people to be a part of it. So this is where this podcast is starting to evolve. And I definitely will thank everybody who listens to it. I definitely get good feedback all the time. I want the show to grow. I want more listeners. So please, the best thing you can do is just share it. Let other people know. Post it on your social medias. Please, just do me a solid. If you like any episode, please retweet it, share it on Facebook, share it on Google Plus, share it, whatever. Call somebody up and say, go listen to this, whatever. I don't care. Just please share it with me so we can grow this sort of universe that I've been too scared for a long time to really create. So again, thank you. So let's finally get to the interview. That's enough yammering by my part. So let's talk with Natasha Kmeto. So yeah, recently I just came across your music. I got a press release for Beacon because they're coming to Detroit with you, and I
Hmm.
saw your name attached to it on the tour, and I'm like, let me check out this person. And so I found the Bandcamp for Dropping Gems, and I listened to Inevitable, and I was like, holy crap, this is incredible,
Awesome. I'm glad you like it.
So yeah, I ended up like they have like a whole deal where you can buy like the whole like Dropping Gems catalog for like half off. So I just bought everything.
Hmm. Nice. No, it's a good catalog that was put out a lot of really awesome music.
Yeah, definitely. What really captured me about this new album was just right off the bat, it just goes right into your vocals, and
Hmm.
you have very strong vocals and very soulful. And I was just like, wow, this is really great. Like, where does your sort of vocal styling kind of come from?
I was raised on like a lot of jazz and a lot of soul and R&B, a lot of blues, and so I think um, I gravitated toward that kind of music not only because it's kind of like in my background, but it's also I've always had an alto, and so I think that style of music has sort of always my voice felt more comfortable singing that style of music, I guess. Um, and yeah, I just I my parents told me I'd always been a really vocal child. I sang a lot, so I think I kind of just all stemmed from that. And I've been singing for I feel like my entire life. So
Right. What sort of a kid were you growing up?
um, I was kind of a nerd. I was as a young one. I think I was. I mean, I was a nerd, but I was also a jock too. So I kind of like fell into different scenes of people. I never really like was one specific type of person. Like I played sports, but I was also really academic, and then I also was really into music. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like not really one specific stereotype, I suppose.
What sports did you play?
I swam was my main sport, and then I played basketball too.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. With this on the album, just the way that it starts, it just goes boom right into your vocals, very strong. Like like the decision just to start off the album like that, does that like kind of breed some sort of like little bit of vulnerability that you're kind of putting it all out there right off the jump?
Totally. I mean, for me, starting the record with that track was really important because after I'd written Crisis, that was the next song that I wrote after the release of Crisis. So that Inevitable kind of like set the tone for the rest of the record, I guess. And I wanted to make a really vocal forward album. I wanted to focus really hard on songwriting and just sort of making the storytelling aspect and the emotive aspect sort of the highlight of the record. So I think starting it with that track was the best way to do that.
Yeah, I noticed that, in comparison to your previous projects, um, Inevitable is much more vocal heavy than the
Hmm.
previous albums.
Yeah, I was definitely moving in that direction, and I think I don't know. I was kind of starting. I think my live, like touring and my live act, definitely shaped that direction because I was starting to accompany more live acts as opposed to DJs,
Yeah.
and so I think I was starting to think of my career as more of a crossover as opposed to sort of dwelling in the electronic realm.
You write and produce all your music, correct?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible, man, just to do it all. Like when did you first like kind of get into, fully sort of producing your own music?
Um, this project has always been that for me. Um, and so it kind of began, I went to music school, God, I guess it was like 10 years ago now. And I originally had gone to school to learn, because I'd always been a singer, but I kind of played piano, but I didn't really know how to, like, I didn't know a lot of theory. So I went to school to study keyboards and piano, basically. Like, I wanted to learn basic songwriting, basic chord theory, scale theory, rhythm theory, all that stuff. And so sort of within that program, part of the program was learning digital production software, and they trained us how to use Logic. And so kind of by accident, I started getting really, really into those classes. We had classes about synthesis and learning about analog synthesizers, and I kind of just like immediately gravitated toward being able to create music in that way. And so to me, I guess for me, producing has always been just an extension of songwriting. And so it's like, you know, I guess just as opposed to like people that just sit at a piano and write a song, or people that sit with their guitar and write a song, I just kind of always thought of the software as being my really elaborate instrument, I guess.
Definitely. When I kind of with your songs, with your projects, there's a bit of a deep full meaning in all your songs. You perform them with a lot of deepness, but then also it's accompanied with a very very complex, very heavy, very multi-layered production too. Kind of talk about what how you've been able to progress the actual sound of your music.
I mean, I think when I first started making beats and stuff, I think I had a really hard time editing. So it was like, I think I've always kind of heard a lot of things and a lot of sound and a lot of intricacy in music. And so it's interesting because I think with Crisis, it was like the first time I really pared it down like a lot.
Yeah.
And like was really specific about picking like a palette of sounds to limit myself to use. And I did kind of the same thing with Inevitable. And so I think when I limit myself in sort of that palette, it allows me to sort of try to experiment with the limits of all of those things within stuff. So I think that kind of lends itself to becoming more complex, I guess. It's interesting. I just had an interview with another interviewer who was saying that my music is like not weird enough. So it's kind of interesting that like the difference in opinion depending on what music people listen to.
Right. I mean,
she was saying something like that, it's not avant-garde like Coco Rosie or something like that. And I'm like, gosh, I feel like to some people my music's very weird and extreme, and then to some people it's not.
I think it's like this. I feel like there's so much there's like so much like avant-garde stuff out there, and then there's so much like sort of oversimplified music out there that your music kind of goes in the middle there and is just kind of like a healthy sort of mix of that all, and kind of like keeping in its own sort of healthy realm,
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that.
Definitely. Okay, so you're from Portland. Have you always been based in Portland?
No, I grew up in Sacramento, which is Northern California,
Yeah.
And then I lived in LA for school for a couple years, and then I've been here for almost a decade though, so I'm a Portlander.
How's sort of like like the artistic sort of music scene in Portland?
It's good. When I first moved here, it was different. I mean, we're obviously a city that's known mainly for indie rock and bearded dudes with weird stringed instruments. But I think since I've moved here, I've definitely seen a lot more growth in the electronic music community, and just as far as like indie music becoming more electronic in general. And there's a lot of really great musicians here. I think our city is one of those cities in the country that I'm sure you can relate to this in Detroit as well. That's just going through a lot of change.
Yeah.
And like we're kind of in the midst of this like mass gentrification. And so
Yeah.
the scene is changing really dramatically, really fast. So it's funny when people ask me sort of what the scene is like here. I have a little bit of a barometer of what it's like, but I don't. Sometimes I feel like I don't even know what's going on anymore, and I used to be like really plugged into what was going on. So I feel like because I've been touring more and I've been taking my act more national and internationally, that I don't play here as often, so I'm not quite as in tune to what's going on. But from my observation, I mean, I think the indie rock scene is still very strong here. I think we'll always have like a metal and hardcore scene here. We have a hip hop scene that's trying to happen, and an electronic music scene that thrives on the underground mainly.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. It's like, yeah, definitely here in Detroit, going through this whole like sort of revitalization, and
Mhm.
it's like the stuff that I kind of grew up like coming through in the scene when I first started, like all that sort of vibe is kind of not even really existing anymore, and there's this whole
Yeah.
other one that's like it's hard to recognize, hard to sort of grasp. It's a little bit more just it's diverse in some ways, in some it's still like a little bit sort of segregated, and you're like, what is this? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of in that. I think we're still trying to find out what this new Portland is, kind of. So
Yeah, the new
I'm
Portland.
I'm interested to see how it how it develops, or if it's just going to turn into another San Francisco, or I don't know what's going to happen. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. With the new album, and like I've kind of alluded to earlier, it's sort of like in comparison to the previous projects, it's almost like you're kind of coming out from behind the machine and being up front a little bit more.
hmm
Kind of talk about sort of like the moods and the themes of the new album.
Um, I mean, I guess I feel like I was very much pushing myself in a direction that I wasn't formerly very comfortable with by having the vocals that up front.
Yeah.
Um, but in sort of challenging myself to write material that would sound appropriate with, I think that I pushed myself to start getting more into the realm of more storytelling with my lyrics. I think previously I'd done a lot more work with sort of exploring the traditional theme of electronic music where you sort of pick a phrase and you repeat it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think with this was starting to push into more like write verses and write choruses and write hooks, and I think within that, in order to get myself to a place that I felt comfortable with it being presented that way, the writing and the themes centered around just I guess being more open and more honest, and just continuing sort of that arc that I started with Crisis, and sort of staying brutally honest about my life, I guess.
Right. Do you feel that you've been able to get anything off your chest with this album? Do you feel a little bit better about yourself after writing this album?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was processing through a lot of, because with Crisis, I was kind of beginning to, I was kind of going through the coming out process, and like was starting to just sort of get comfortable with my queer identity. And so I think Inevitable kind of like starts to complete that arc of me getting more comfortable with a lot of that stuff. And I think speaking to it more directly on this record definitely helped me feel more comfortable. It's funny because I wrote it so long ago that it feels like a long time ago.
Right.
But I guess even when I continue to play the material and live with it, I still feel like, yeah, it was definitely a very important catharsis, and I'm happy that I got all of it out.
How does that sort of kind of get the ball rolling about what you're going to do next, or how you kind of are processing things in your own life, trying to figure certain things out?
I guess the difference in writing now for me is that, like, with the past two records, I think I was going through a lot of really direct personal drama, and I think since then my life has definitely evened out a lot. I feel, I'm in a committed relationship. Things with my career are slightly less tumultuous. Things with my identity, I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable. And so what I'm finding now is with writing, I'm trying to address issues that are maybe more outside of myself. Because it's not to say that there isn't a lot to say about, and that there isn't, things to feel emotional about. I guess they're just not as, like, directly happening to just me.
Right.
And so I find myself sort of trying to put myself in a place where I'm telling stories that I can relate to and that I feel, but they're not necessarily something I'm directly experiencing right now.
Yeah, that's what I kind of was starting to get out of you with Inevitable, was that, yeah, you were sort of tackling your queer identity with it, but you were doing it in this way where you were telling your stories, but it still had this universal appeal to it, where it can be like the listener can kind of put it in their own context and say, like,
Absolutely.
I'm dealing with this, but she's dealing with that, but these have like commonalities that
Totally.
yeah. So that's what I really picked up on this album.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't want my sexual identity to in any way be exclusive to anybody. I want it to be inclusive. I want, like, the themes of my music are human in essence, and just the fact that I am a lesbian doesn't mean that other people can't relate to it if they're not a lesbian. It's
Right.
kind of the same way that, I can relate to plenty of music that straight dudes write. It's not really, like, about being, like, making music only for one specific style of people, which I think is something that people commonly mistake. I'm looking to, I mean, emotions are a universal experience, and so I think really that's all I'm trying to come down to with this. I'm just trying to express emotions, just like any artist is, I think.
Right. Yeah, with kind of like researching things about you, and then just kind of catching up on some other things recently, even the past couple of days, like, and this is like total full disclosure, like, I kind of realized with the whole term queer that it was something more than just being gay or some sort of slur, that there's kind of
Totally.
there's something more to it. There's an umbrella to it. There's a thing about just not it's being attracted to many genders, or not fitting the cultural norms about sexuality. And that really
Totally.
sort of was interesting to me, because like over a lot of my own years, it's like that's been something that's really I've kind of struggled with, because I would see all these things and I'd be like, that don't make sense to me, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like there should be these dualisms in regards to gay or straight, right or wrong, black or white, and and I feel like the past few days, like, something kind of like popped in my head. I was just like, you know what? It's just like I kind of identify, with this sort of queer identity also. It's just like I prefer, women, but like, as I saw a quote recently, do you know that one actress, Rowan Blanchard? She's on Girl Meets World.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of going back and forth on Twitter with someone about being about sort of identifying as being queer also, and she simply said that it's about being open to liking any gender in the future, is why she identifies as being queer. And that was something that I really kind of resonate with. I'm like, yes, I do prefer women, but why should I limit myself to others?
Totally. I mean, I think a lot of people are. I mean, and we could probably get into hours-long conversations about
Right.
this stuff, but I think for anybody to have to pigeonhole themselves is it's going to limit your life, And I think it's about choice, it's about options, it's about basically existing in a society that's not going to judge you regardless and just let you be free and live your life. And I think that's ultimately what I want. I think people should just be able to be free to do what they want. You know?
Right, because like as I was kind of like always dealing with this for years and years. I mean, I think the past couple years I've kind of understood myself a little bit more. I was always kind of reading up on different sort of theories and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, all of them are really sort of solid ideas. But I still think in a more fluid way, where it's just a lot of gray area, and I just feel like okay, how can you? I just feel like even in a scientifical way, like how is it 100% that you can't be attracted to the same sex? Like
I
that
mean,
doesn't make
I don't
sense.
think that there is a way. I mean, I think everyone's a little wavy.
Right. I mean,
But
in my mind,
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
how can it just be such a dualism where it's like you're one thing or the other, or it's right or wrong, good or evil, blah blah blah. I don't feel like that should how can that even just in a sort of like in a sort of regular mind, of intelligent mind, like why how can you feel like that should exist? I feel like all of it's sort of a gray area, and there's different forms of love, and there's different forms of
Mhm.
everything. So I feel like that should be embraced more, but like so many people just like I don't it just the social norms are so like kind of crazy that
Yeah, they're pretty rigid, but I feel like they're slowly starting to change. And I think for all the horrible things about it, that one of the best things about living in this age of technology and living in the age of the internet is that like there's more dialogue happening about this, and like more people becoming aware of things and more people sharing thoughts. And I think that our minds and our consciousness is like evolving faster because of that. So it's I'm happy to be one of those people that's helping share some ideas, and
right.
you know, hopefully we can get to a place where people just let people do what they want to do.
How once you felt a little bit more comfortable in yourself and sort of finding this freedom, like how much more happier in your own life, and much more creative did you become?
Oh, endlessly. Like it's like night and day. I feel like the stuff that I was hashing out before I made Crisis was only necessary, really, and the only thing I really look back on it for is it was necessary in getting me ready to be um, the artist that I was supposed to be when I was being honest with myself. And I think that it's like night and day, the level of expression that I've been able to achieve since being honest with myself. And yeah, I mean, I can't be more grateful for, you know, the people that helped me get to where I am today, because I feel like myself, which is a good feeling.
With kind of bringing this dialogue out, and having it, much more public in your music and whatnot. What sort of feedback do you get from others in regards to this?
Mostly, I mean, I'm not a big like I don't like reading a ton of like internet comments or anything
Right.
like that. Like,
None
I
of
don't
us do.
generally get into that. But as far as like my interpersonal dynamics with people, I've mainly just had really positive conversations similar to the one that we're having right now about I don't know, people feeling more comfortable talking about this kind of stuff and feeling, I think, this kind of stuff. And then also, I do dialogue with a lot of women that are interested in producing and making music that they don't really see that very often. And so they're, you know, inquisitive about how to get started on that and how to delve into that world, which is fucking awesome. And I'm really excited about being any cause of any female identified person starting to make music. I'm like really into that. So, yeah, I mean, I get mostly positive feedback, and that's mainly what I'm looking to accept anyway. I'm not really looking for people that are trying to be negative about it, but
Right.
yeah, mostly I've had like really, really good positive interactions with people.
Yeah, you just mentioned about sort of, working with other women who are, trying to get into music. What's some of the stuff that you sort of do with them? What sort of advice do you give them?
Um, Mainly just not to be intimidated or scared. Because I think a lot of women are just like, they get like discouraged easily because, it can be a discouraging thing to tackle. And I think most of the people that know things are dudes, and more often than not, what I hear is that if they talk to a dude about learning stuff, the guy either wants to make it a sexual thing, or if they don't want to make it a sexual thing, then it turns into them like being dominant or trying to act superior, as opposed to like just trying to, teach them something. Which
Right.
I'm fortunate that I had a lot of men that were neither of those things and actually just taught me stuff. And so mainly what I tell them is to just stick with it and go out and ask questions. And I think more and more I'm a part of a couple Pacific Northwest collectives of women that are trying to do workshops and interact and interface with each other about learning to produce and learning to DJ. So usually I'll point them in the direction of something like that. And, again, the internet is a great place to learn stuff. I mean, I've YouTubed a lot of tutorials, a lot of things to learn how to do stuff. And you just got to not be scared to sit down and just do it.
Yeah, definitely. You have any more information in regards to like those workshops you're talking about?
Yeah, so I've helped out with a collective here in Portland called Women's Beat League. It's these two really, really rad women run it, and Felicia and Daniela, and they have been holding workshops since, I think, summer of last year. I taught a workshop on music theory, which was awesome. But they've been holding like open nights. Like they'll set up a couple setups of like CDJs or setups of Ableton Live and hold basically workshops for women and female identified persons to come and basically just sit down and like talk to a person that knows how to work the stuff and like play around on it. And I think it's been going really, really well. And then there's another organization out of Seattle called Tough, which they're more into trying to do like kind of more like what Disc Woman is doing, where it's like a collective of women who are like throwing shows and doing some workshop stuff, but mainly in more of the promoting DJing aspect. So it's pretty cool that stuff like that's starting to crop up.
Oh, definitely. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, with sort of, this topic of, just females in music, like over the past 24 hours, there's just a big groundswell in regards to the sort of sexual abuse that, certain publicists did on many female artists and whatnots. It's kind of crazy. I think a lot of us, even if we don't see it, we kind of get a feeling that like shit like that happens all the time in some some point or another. Like, how do you kind of swim through those waters if you even have a gut feeling that someone might be sort of sleazy?
I mean, it's hard. I feel like I've had. I mean, especially as a woman, like you're faced with certain decisions constantly, whether it's like what you're wearing or who you talk to in what way, where you feel like if you just compromise your integrity for one moment, then you might be able to get ahead. And that's kind of how it's presented a lot of the time. And I personally am going to die with my integrity, so I feel like I've passed up or maybe blown some opportunities in my life to get ahead by cashing in on that sort of dynamic that a lot of men who are higher up have in the industry. I read that thing yesterday, and I have to say I feel like maybe earlier in my career I had seen like things like that happen, or like witnessed a dynamic that was pretty indicative of that type of thing happening, and not said anything or continued to work with people. And I really, really, really like regret that, and I really don't want to be a part of anything that supports that in any way. And it's tough in this industry to even know who's doing it, who isn't, but I'm all completely in support for people that are calling it out. And I think it's really important to call it out. And I think the only way it's going to change is if there's more open dialogue about it and people are held accountable for it.
Yeah, definitely. I remember even when I was just like younger in the hip hop scene here in Detroit, there'd be certain people that I wouldn't have specific proof, but I would just have a gut feeling that they were doing shit like that. So I just always kind of kept my distance away from them, because
I mean, I guess I've kind of done the same thing, but and like maybe segued out of working with them in some respects, maybe to the detriment of my career. But I guess I feel like maybe I need to be more proactive and vocal about it. And there's this sort of like fear that if you do it, you're going to be ostracized. But I think I'm over that.
Right. Have you ever, from like whether it's a creative standpoint or from a promoting marketing standpoint, has anybody ever like had ideas for shit for you to do that was just because you are a woman and they don't really know, and they're kind of ignoring who you are as just a person and a musician?
I mean, absolutely. All the time. All the time. Yep. It's a daily thing. But I'm really lucky I have a good team of people that I work with, my manager and my agents, that understand who I am. And, I think I've kind of had this understanding now that it's going to be, because of that, it's going to be a longer road for me. But I think in the end it will be more fulfilling and it'll actually mean something. So, I think that there are a lot of ways for women to get ahead in the industry if they want to be, but a lot of those aren't necessarily things that I want or advocate for. It shouldn't be that way.
No, and I don't think you need to, because from my vantage point, I feel like you have a special sound, and I feel like you need to just continue doing what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel the same way.
Definitely. What's next for you? What do you see, like, what do you want to work on next? What do you feel like you want to try to accomplish and coming up in the future?
I mean, I have this tour coming up. That's like first and foremost, which I'm really excited about. I'm a big Ghostly International fan, and I think I've heard Beacon's new record, and it's really amazing. Oh,
it is, yeah.
Get to see a lot of places in the U.S. I haven't been yet, which I'm excited about.
What's your live show like?
It's me in a synth and a laptop. I do a lot of like live looping and live remixing, live arranging. It's intense. It's dynamic. It's definitely danceable. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to get you out to a show.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be at the Detroit show.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think first and foremost the tour, and then I'm working on new material, and that's kind of, I'm hoping to, play some more shows throughout the year and hopefully get the ball rolling on getting a new record out.
When you're not touring or making music, doing shows, how do you sort of decompress, through, everything that you have to go through through the day?
I really like to cook. That's like a really relaxing thing for me to do.
Yeah.
I really like working out. Yeah, I mean, I guess just hanging out with my partner, hanging out with my friends. I have a really strong community of people around me here. My family's super supportive as well. And so I think, yeah, those things mainly keep me pretty grounded.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been great talking with you.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
Likewise.
I've had this is such a great interview, and I was able like talk about some real shit with somebody.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Definitely.
I'm seeing one of your Detroit natives and seeing Shigeto tonight.
Oh, that's the homie, man. I've known him for a while, man. Just tell him that K Fresh says what's up.
I will. Yeah, I did some really early on shows with Zach, so we go back a little ways too. But I'm excited to see his new stuff live.
Yeah, he's incredible live. Yeah, I know all the Ghostly cats too. I've known them for a long time. But yeah, I've known Shigeto for a real long time, man. We're homies.
Yeah, he's
and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, just say what up to him, man.
I will.
So that was my interview with Natasha Kmeto. I was super excited after I did the interview with her, and I'm super excited to get this full interview out on the podcast. I'm a little scared though, because I'm grasping a subject that I never really talked about on here. So we'll see how people respond to it, So I was happy to do it. We got to progress as people. If you'd like to support the Fresh is the Word podcast, you can go to our website, which is freshasthepodcast.com. And there's a link at the top that says support the podcast. And on that page, there is a PayPal link that you can donate to. Or there is a Amazon link on there that you can use anytime that you want to purchase anything on Amazon. Use that link, and after you make your purchases, Amazon will shoot some commission back to me. I'll just go to help the show. Also, I definitely appreciate all the listens, and if you definitely want to share the links to the website, freshasthepodcast.com, or any of the links on Soundcloud, that's definitely appreciated and will definitely help support the podcast. You can also reach Fresh is the Word on the social medias at Instagram and Twitter at Fresh is the Word 1. That's Fresh is the Word number 1. And on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Fresh is the Podcast and give us a like on that page. We're also on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, so go ahead and search Fresh is the Word on there and go ahead and subscribe to us. And it also would be very helpful if you go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and throw some comments on there. Thanks for listening. See you soon.
Fresh is the word.